Raster data comes in a variety of formats, and many of these can be brought into ArcGIS Pro and displayed there. However, there's only 4 different types of files that can be analyzed in ArcGIS, and these include the file geodatabase raster, which is which would probably be the best one if it's available. The TIFF format, so it would end in a TIFF extension. Erdas, which is another software, GIS software company, different than Esri. And then a old ArcInfo format, which is called Grid, which is probably the most common format for, in many cases, for some of these different grids. Kind of like shapefiles, this grid format has kind of survived just because it's easy to share. Other types can be read and displayed, such as JPEGs, PNGs, Mr. SID files. These ones here, band interleaved by line, band sequential, so on and so on. A lot of these have to do with different sorts of satellite formats, how the data is collected on the satellites. But all of these, once again, can be displayed, but you're not able to do any sort of analysis with those in that format. If we look at the raster table, we're going to have a unique object ID. The most important thing we see here is we're going to see all the different values that appear. So there's values from ranging from 1 to 7 that appear in this attribute table. And then this count field here represents how many individual grid cells have each of these values. So we can clearly see by looking through here that the most grid cells have a value of 2, and the least number of grid cells have a value of 6. And we can also, if we want to, include some sort of information, some sort of explanatory field saying what each one of these different numbers mean, such as in this example here, 1 means alluvium, and these are all the different sorts of formations in this area. One other thing to remember about raster data is that raster data, anywhere we don't have one of these values, such as an elevation value here, is going to have a no data value. So all of this area shown in white here, along the edge here, this little strip up here, and the strip to the side here, would have a value of no data. We don't want to give that a value of 0 because it's not at an elevation of 0. So we just want to make clear that there's no data value associated with there, right? And sometimes 0 can be an inappropriate value, right? Like with elevation or an example of precipitation here. And so these no data values are important because they're indicated that these are not areas where the grid cell has a value. And this is often needed because we need to kind of square out this area where the data appears, because that's how we store these raster grids in GIS.